Hey everybody, how's it going? Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 20-cent piece. This is one of the least known denominations and kind of under the radar designs in United States coinage, and I did a bunch of research. Most of the information I'm going to present I learned very recently, but I'm excited with the presentation and the information that you'll learn by the end of it, give you that full overview. Like I mentioned, everything from the values to all of the cherry picker errors to all of the history in terms of the 20-cent pieces that were proposed in 1806 to the pattern coins that could have been the 20-cent design to the reason that they were kind of moved out of circulation and stopped production so fast. So let's head over to the presentation and I'll give you the full picture. And like I said, here we have the 20-cent piece. It's going to be a quick overview, but it'll tell you all you need to know because I learned so much in the short period of time that I spent researching and just want to share that with you. So they were struck from 1875 to 1878, but those last 2 years were really only for collectors. 1875 and 1876 was when they were having the business strike, like the shiny one shown here, that was just kind of for normal use. And they were proposed by Nevada Senator John P. Jones, but they ended up being a failure because they were confused with the quarter, and they were very similar designs and sizes and that sort of thing. The reason that they were put into place was because they thought they'd alleviate a shortage of small change in the far west. It's not, today there's really easy circulation. Things can travel quickly, but back then there was just not enough coinage, especially smaller coinage, in the western part of the United States. It was still being developed. Now, one of the interesting fun facts about this coin is that it had a smooth edge. It was not reeded, which was just kind of a weird thing to happen. I guess maybe that would be a differentiator between the 20-cent piece and the quarter, but that was kind of one of the unique parts of the coin. And a kind of macro trend was that a ton of these were melted down by the government. And I guess for a little bit of a backstory, they were proposed to make the 20-cent piece in 1791 and again in 1806. 1806, Connecticut Senator Uriah Tracy wanted a 2-cent piece and a double dime or 20-cent piece, but that was opposed by the mint director, mostly because the 2-cent piece was in billion or very low-grade silver that would be difficult to recover when melting the coins. Despite passing the Senate in 1806 and 1807, it continuously failed in the House of Representatives. And I guess to fill that place of the 20-cent piece, the 2 reals piece struck in Spain passed for 20 cents before the Coinage Act of 1857 that outlawed foreign coins. And again, going back to that circulation, there was just not enough of this coinage circulating, so the Spanish material stepped in. Now, I'll show some of the values here so that you can take a look at them for a little while. Just kind of, some standout one is the 1876 CC, which we'll get to in a moment. But another kind of complicating factor was that there were lots of silver half dimes that were being used in the West, but when they were kind of removed and they stopped producing them, there was a big shortage of small change because people didn't really want to accept the 2-cent pieces and the 1 cent, the pennies, because they just didn't have any silver. So it wasn't like you could trade tons and tons for 20 cents or even a nickel. Remember, if somebody paid with something for a quarter, and it was 10 cents, there was very short change in terms of getting nickels. You would have maybe a dime, but then that 5 cents left over. So the idea was that maybe you could use a 20-cent coin and then get back a dime and then your 10-cent item. But there was also a lot of pressure from the mining. There was an expansion of silver mining at this point, and people just wanted to make more silver into coins. And they also had some interest in aligning the currency with the Latin monetary union, essentially have its weights for coinage in line with the metric system. So this would have been in line with the French franc, or just 5 grams, which is nice and easy, as opposed to the normal weights of 20-cent pieces and pretty much all of our coinage that was aligned with kind of the U.S. imperial system, as opposed to anything that was kind of worldwide really easily accepted. They also wanted to move away from the fractional currency, that's the paper currency that was really common back then, and they ended up being made legal tender up to $5. Now, in terms of some of the designs, they had a variety of patterns that were kind of proposed. Some of them kind of are here. I think the 1/5, the fractional with kind of the trade dollar obverse, that would have been really cool to have, but that's not what they settled on. Obviously, what was in back, kind of that was what we ended up with. But they had no E pluribus unum, no In God We Trust, but they did spell out the 20 cents because it's a pretty small coin. It's slightly smaller than a quarter. Now, in terms of some of the interesting kind of unique parts about this coin, it's already unique, but this had a mintage of 12, the special strike. There was an auction where it sold for $103,000, one of the nicest ones that's known, and not much is known about why they were made. 12 is just an estimate, and they could have been struck to celebrate like the first 20-cent pieces struck at a branch mint, not the main mint, but that's pretty much the only explanation that's been used. They're much sharper in terms of how they're struck, different devices, and if you think you might have one, that would be extremely rare. Now, the other one to look out for here is the misplaced date and repunch mint mark. There's two varieties here, and the misplaced date, the 8 is kind of protruding from the in the denticles, and then same thing over here. It's a little bit tougher to see, but the S on the back of the coin is strongly repunched. Now, these are really cool varieties to search for, but they're pretty common, not too rare, and they're not really going to add any premium, but I still mention them because I always think it's fun to look for kind of different misplaced dates or varieties, and often they're a little less valuable when on some of the older coinage because they were just a lot more common. There's also a bunch of proof coins. They kind of range in terms of what their mintages were, but they decrease. 1875, 1876 are a lot more minted than the later years. But going back, I wanted to kind of talk about the 1876 CC. We've got it right here, and it's interesting because the CC, the letters are Carson City, spread out quite a bit. And the director of the mint ordered them to melt down all of their surviving examples in 1877, but I guess a few kind of survived. The first sale was in 1890. One appeared at a New York Stamp and Coin Company auction, sold for $7, and now, there's also maybe like 20 that are rumored to exist, and they're $150,000 to $300,000 in value, so just massive premiums. And the end result of all of these coins is that tons of them were melted down, not just the 1876 CC, because the Bland-Allison Act was passed, and that required the government to purchase lots of silver bullion to strike into silver dollars. That a lot of that silver came from the 20-cent coins, and that kind of just combined with the limited popularity of these and the confusion with quarters, kind of spelled the end for these coins. I guess at this point, the only remaining tidbit of information is that people could pay a premium to buy these proof coins, and they'd just be pretty much made to order. And because a lot of them kind of are in the proof 63, 64, and because they're a little bit, they're not great in terms of how they are preserved, it's just interesting to kind of observe that trend. Some others have the proof coins really well treated, but maybe people didn't think that they were as special or noteworthy. But it does remain one of the shortest ever series in U.S. coinage. Just 4 years and really 2 for actual use. So I always find it interesting, and I hope you learned something. There's a lot that I wouldn't have known going into this video, and yeah, hope that was your experience as well. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to subscribe to Treasure Town, as well as like and comment. Check out my other platforms like my website, treasuretownYT.com. Also some information if you're interested in supporting the channel. Then I also have an Instagram at TreasureTownYT, Twitter at TreasureTownYT, and Facebook Treasure Town. So maybe I'll see you on some of those other platforms, and have a great day.